Right, hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's Helen here from Futurely. Can I just get my co-hosts to put their cameras on? Helen, you just click the camera, we should be able to see you. There we go. Brilliant. Just a little bit, yeah, you can all wave at everybody. I'll introduce you guys in a second. I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping first. One, I want to check that everyone can actually hear me. So if you could all just pop a note in the chat box, which is down the bottom half, to say that you can hear me loud and clear, that'd be brilliant. And actually that you can also see my screen. There should be some slides on, which is Jim's Fighting for Survival. So brilliant messages are all coming in, super brilliant. We will also, as I check the messages, I then click through the slides. Just while we wait for everybody to come in and join, and it's again another incredibly popular session, which I think is just tantamount to the small business economy at the moment and the challenges faced by the current lockdown situation we're in. I'm just going to kind of set the scene for why we're doing these. We decided that as we deal directly with small businesses, that we would look at individual verticals each week for the foreseeable future, talking directly to those small businesses within those verticals. Last week we talked to hospitality clients and really understood about the restaurant industry and the bar industry and how they've been hit. This week it's all gyms. Gyms very much at the coalface of this. You know, lockdown means that you cannot open. How do you then? You have to diversify to survive. And so this week we're talking to 3 different gyms and the different ways that they are tackling it. And then next week and beyond, we will keep covering these different verticals. Please get your questions into the chat box that you just confirmed you could hear me in. Stick your questions in there. We will get to Q&A at the end of it. But today's session, as you can see on the screen then, we're going to introduce everybody in a second, so it's not just me talking. We will then get Helen, who is one of the co-founders of the Box Gym here in Brighton, to talk us through the shutdown, the first 2 weeks, the early indications. She's going to talk financials and planning. I mean, obviously cash flow is core to our heart, but it has now become, I think, ever more core to small businesses' hearts over the past few weeks. And she will talk very much about how it helps them drive and make decisions. She'll then talk through the survival strategies and the business today, and where they're going to take it going forward. And then there will be time for Q&As at the end. Just so that everybody does know, we are recording these sessions. They will be available. We will put them onto our website at the end of this week once we've done all 3 sessions, but we will also send an email out at the end of the week, beginning of next week, which will have the link through to catch them. So without further ado, I'll introduce my co-hosts. So Hannah, over to you. Could you just introduce yourself and why we're both on the call? Maybe explain that one.
Well, first of all, we do everything together, but secondly, look, this is, I'm the founder and CEO of Futurely. Small businesses are my absolute passion. My background is hospitality, so last week was very relevant for me, and I was learning things in each of the webinars that we held, but just, it is really, it's hard running a small business anyway, right? We're all slightly mentally askew, I think, before we go into doing it. But, you know, the risk, the bravery, the sleepless nights, the worry, the stress, all of those things are day to day often because people think that that's, you know, how it should be. But this, you know, global pandemic has just knocked the wind from everybody's sails, and you know, we're navigating uncharted waters. Lots of metaphors there, sorry. So you know, just utterly thrilled to be able to that. First of all, Helen, thank you so much for, you know, taking the time today. But you know, people learn from people, you know, and so if we can help anybody in each of these industries try something new, or you know, take a different approach in how they're thinking about things, then you know, we're winning and we're helping. So that's the reason for these webinars. It's not a promo thing, it's absolutely to see if we can get this peer-to-peer help and learning.
Okay, Helen, over to you. Can you just quickly introduce yourself, please?
Hi, so I'm Helen Shapcott. So I'm one of the co-founders of The Box in Brighton. So we're a fitness studio based very much around boxing. I run it with my business partner, Lucy, and also Jordan, our studio manager. So we've been open for 2 years now, literally last month. So we celebrated our birthday online, which was not what we were expecting. Yeah, so Lucy and I both run The Box in our fantasy spare time. So we both have full-time day jobs, and then we run The Box as well.
I did not know that, so I have to say, so you both know Helen and Lucy. In fact, both Hannah and I train at The Box, but I did not know. So you build this around your what is your other jobs? What are your other worlds?
So I'm a management consultant, so I spend a lot of time working on mostly large government contracts, a lot of stuff with kind of health and fire services, that kind of stuff. So yeah, so a lot of my day job is kind of business cases or I don't know, IT projects, that kind of thing. And Lucy is, I guess, art director is the best way to describe her. So she works pretty much freelance, but does a lot of art and design and marketing stuff. So like all our cool branding and our social media and all our cool marketing is Lucy. That's all her. But she's worked in the fitness industry for years and years, and has been a fitness teacher and trainer for years and years. But also does the kind, so she arranges photo shoots for magazines and does their print layouts, all that kind of good stuff as well.
And that is Lucy there on screen. We should just say the photo that is on the slide, you can see that's Lucy, and then Jordan, who you've already talked about, who is part of, actually, the three of you came together and came up with this idea. Can you just kind of take everybody through where the idea was born from and how it came to light?
Yeah, so as with all good ideas, it came up in, I was going to say pub. I don't think it was a pub. I think it was a coffee shop rather than a pub.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, yeah, when we're allowed to do those kind of things. So I think Lucy and I met, I think it was in 2016, so a number of years ago, through another fitness studio, actually, where Lucy was teaching. They did kind of some boxer-side stuff. Lucy and I just got chatting and realised that actually our ambitions and dreams, I think, were quite similar in that Lucy's dream has always been to open a fitness studio. And I think my dream has always been to own and run a business.
Yeah.
And as we got, and we both love boxing and fitness, I guess. And as we got talking, it became apparent that actually our skill sets complement each other quite well. She is fitness. She knows everything there is about fitness. She's like an action woman.
She is.
And it's got all the kind of marketing side. And then, my livelihood is business and numbers and finance. So we kind of got chatting, roped George in, and his dad was involved as well, helped us with our fit out. I think it took us probably 18 months to 2 years to actually find premises.
Wow.
So we had months and months and months of meeting up in coffee shops and pubs and talking through and planning, which I think at the time we found really frustrating because we felt like we were talking about this idea for this boxing studio, and I think you get to a point where I think, are we just making this up in our heads? Like, is it actually going to become tangible? But actually, I think that time that we had to plan and talk actually was, I think, actually almost key, because I think it enabled us to actually clarify our vision and what we wanted to do with the box and what we were about and our values. And I think our values as a business are super important to us and hopefully come across in what we do in the studio as well.
And I guess what did, with all of it, actually, before we even go to what did this year look like, you launched, so 2 years ago you launched. How did you actually launch? Did you get big forecasts? Did you go to the bank for loans? Did you just look down the back of the sofa? How did you actually get it open?
It was looking down the back of the sofa. So we've taken no loans out. So it's completely funded by myself and Lucy's pocket money. So we opened on a shoestring. We knew that we wanted most of our costs for opening were kitting out the place.
Yeah, of course.
And it was quite a sad looking space to begin with. Like the mezzanine floor with our changing rooms, we put all that in, and obviously all the bags and the kit and making it look the part, all that kind of good stuff. But that we knew that it needed to look good, but we did do it on quite a budget. Jordan's dad was fundamental to that. So Jordan's dad, luckily for us, was kind of semi-retired and had been in construction project management.
Brilliant.
All of his career. Don't just let one plan come together. And is from Brighton, so knew all the trades in Brighton. Worked like a dog to get, I think he just smashed through our fit out super quickly so that we could get open as soon as possible. We all chipped in. There was many late nights of painting bits of metal with fire retardant paint and God knows what, and late at night and all that kind of good stuff. So it's all self-funded. So we don't have any loans or anything, which has probably helped us where we are.
I think this is the travesty of flipping COVID-19, isn't it? All the hard work and blood, sweat and tears that you'd go in to do without loans, to get it open, to get going, and then this unforeseen punch. excuse the pun, but unforeseen punch comes in from the side and just knocks you off your feet. But before that punch did come in, what did this year look like? How is it performing? And even take us through the numbers if you can. I've put some suggestions there, but just give us an idea.
So we had a really good year. So yeah, so we literally have just, so the end of March is the end of our financial year for us. So just, you know, so up until, I suppose it's like, I think Friday the 13th of March was the date that we closed. Up until that point, we had a great year. Like again, because we didn't have massive budgets for marketing and things, so everything has been quite organic growth. But into the second year, like we kept going with kind of the steady growth that we built on our first year. And I think we felt like we'd finally got to a stage where, you know, we weren't having to watch the pennies and we could start buying new kit and doing a few different things, you know, adding more classes to the timetable. You know, like our financial position was feeling pretty sound and strong. Yeah. Our client, again, like members numbers were all looking good. Like we've kind of got our core members who've been there literally since we opened and have stayed with us. And then we kind of always have this transient kind of base as well. So in Brighton, you tend to have lots of people kind of moving in and moving out of the city. And then we're on MoveGB platform as well. But yeah, so we'd got to a point where membership numbers were kind of strong and kind of month on month steadily increasing. Same for sales. You know, you kind of have, you know, obviously January sales spike up a bit because everyone's on their fitness. So there's a bit of kind of spikes and stuff, but generally the trend was like this, a nice steady, yeah, we're going in the right direction. Let's start thinking about the future kind of thing.
And then
sorry, you've got to close.
Oh, it's just, I mean, and then take it. I mean, how early did it start to feel like, oh, hold on, this is not steady ground? Did you see it in your members, or was it just the stuff on the news? What started to happen? To
be honest with you, I think a lot of it happened quite late for us, because I think our members are a pretty gung-ho bunch of people who wanted to train up until when they were told they were not allowed to train. Yeah. So I think literally the week leading up to that the dreaded Friday the 13th, when Boris Johnson said gyms are now closed, I think it was that week, actually, that run up was the time where we were kind of going, oh Christ, this is now
something's changing.
And so there hadn't been any indication for bookings or new subscriptions or anything even in like early March that were attributed just to the worldwide discussion around the problem and the potential impacts. So did anything like that, like indicators you think, oh, actually there might be something amiss here?
Not really, to be honest with you. Like I think we had some members kind of, well, I think we had, because I guess we're lucky because, you know, Lucy teaches at the box and trains there, and I train there, so we're talking to customers a lot. We're very close to our customers. I think the vibe that we were getting from customers wasn't that they were going to cancel memberships. It was, are you still going to be open? Can we train outside? We want to keep training. We want to keep training.
I remember that. I remember there was a period where you were talking about, do we do it on the beach? Do we just move everything to the beach to be outside?
Yeah.
And then
so yeah, I think it was literally just that last week of kind of when we were like, okay, right, now this is kind of getting serious and it's looking like we are going to have to now close.
So then what happens, Helen? You know, what actions do you take immediately? This is you've not done this before, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was actually, that week leading up to it, I was actually I was on holiday in Gran Canaria, in lockdown in Gran Canaria. So during that holiday basically turned into a working holiday, which actually I think was a blessing because it meant I had the time to think stuff through and get some plans in place.
Yeah.
So Lucy, Jordan and I would speak every day and basically like, right, what's the news saying today? What's Boris saying today? Are we still open? Should we be outside? And I think pretty early on we realized like, right, we've just got to get ourselves, I think we just knew that we've got to get ourselves online. And I think some of that was obviously, you know, business driven, but actually a lot of it was, well, how do we keep serving our customers? Because that's what's really important to us, is making sure that we can continue giving a service to our customers. So how can we do that? Okay, let's go online. And then it was, okay, so if we're doing online, it's a completely different offering. So let's have all our prices. And we decided that pretty quickly. And yeah, I think being able to move so quickly to get ourselves online, because we closed on that Friday, and then on the Monday we had an online timetable running straight away. And I think that's kind of saved us, because we've held on to a lot of our members, because there's been no break in service.
And from like the action points for things like suppliers, rent, all of those things, which are still things that you're paying for, or down to the timetable itself is obviously it's not as full as it was beforehand. So it's things like that, and how you've again navigated and any decisions that you've made from a money out perspective.
Yeah, so I think the initial couple of weeks was basically making sure that we could do the online stuff, and that actually logistically worked. And like you said, sorting out the timetable and making sure trainers were comfortable training online, because they'd never done it before. So everyone had to adapt super quickly. Making sure the technology worked and it worked with our booking system. So lots of phone calls with our MindBody, who we use for our booking system, and sorting out payments, because so many people's payments were changing overnight. So all that kind of back end stuff, sorting that out. And then I think once we got to a place where we were kind of like, okay, the online classes are happening, just they're in. Then it was like, okay, now it's time to speak to the landlord and PRS, the music licensing people, and all those things, and get on the phone to those people, with limited success, shall we say?
Really? It's disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah.
What was the decision? What was the motivation behind, and I guess the decision-making process in halving members' prices? What drove you to make that call quite early on as well? Because you did it almost immediately.
We did do that immediately. I think we've always, whilst of course we're a business and we need to make a profit, the level of profit that we seek to make, I guess, is we never want to feel like we're taking the P. Like, we want it to be reasonable, and also core to our values is being available and open to everyone from all walks of life.
Yeah.
So actually our pricing point is always reflected that, and online classes to us is clearly a completely different offering to coming into our nice slick studio and having a class. It's 45 minutes versus a Zoom class that's being run from someone's living room for half an hour. So we were like, it's like, well, I don't think people are going to continue paying like 10 quid drop in for an online class that's half an hour, or a full price membership. Like it's got to be proportionate. I guess it just felt proportionate, really.
Well, it's driving brand loyalty, isn't it?
Yeah. We don't want to kind of take the fee, and but that said, we've had, yourselves included, thank you very much, like a whole host of people that have said, no way, we're happy to keep paying you full whack because we want you open in a few months' time, which has been amazing.
I think there's, it's this domino effect of the world we're in at the moment. I think, there is a massive, things like gyms are really being hurt by people going, well, I'm not using them, so I'll just cancel it. But then we will want you there on our return. So we've got to make sure that people keep these businesses there, so that when we can all reopen, that they're still there for us to go back and visit. And it's so important. While we're all being paid, I think we have to maintain these subscriptions.
Yeah, and the kind of that same message is, for us and our trainers, because except for Jordan, all our trainers are self-employed. So we want to keep running we want to keep them paying them as well, because
of course,
if we can't keep paying them, and then they're obviously limited in what they can do in their kind of private PT businesses. Well, it might be that when we reopen, you don't see the trainers that we had a few months ago because they've had to go and seek other employment.
Yeah, exactly. And it's trying to balance it.
Sorry, Hel. Just on the financial side of things, and if you're brave enough to talk numbers, do. If you don't want to, don't. But anything that can help guide our audience is helpful. Cash flow seems like it's in all of these. This top line just makes me cringe a little bit. But what did worry you the most about it? I mean, obviously you guys got an action plan really, really quickly, and the outgoings, are relatively small, I'm assuming, but what is worrying you the most? Keeping your customers or maintaining a certain level of revenue? What's happened, Helen?
Yeah, so it's funny actually. So right now, cash flow isn't a massive stress for us because we came into it with quite a healthy bank balance. We came into it in a financially strong position. Like we don't have massive loans and things like that.
Yeah.
That said, obviously that impact on our sales. So Lucy and I we did some scenario forecasting, basically, like just me and a few dodgy spreadsheets going, right, I reckon our sales might look like this, but or if this happens, it looks like this. Right, if we have to keep paying full rent, what does that mean? If we can get this much off our rent, what does that mean? Like, should we be furloughing? Like, those kind of things. So I guess the thing that we monitor very closely is our sales. So every week we're looking at our sales, and that's scary. I mean, obviously we have our pricing, so you can obviously straight away sales are going to
exactly.
Which I think if we kept all of our members, we'd probably be breaking even, so we'd be kind of okay. But we're not. Like, we have lost members because people are losing their jobs, so they're not going to be paying gym memberships, or they've found a different routine that works for them, where they're doing Joe Wicks online or whatever. So we haven't lost many members, but just the small amount that we have means that we are, like, this month and last month we'll be making a small loss. So we're we can fund that for a very small number of months, but it's the big question of how long does this go for.
So does cash runway starts to be a thing that is monitored that hasn't been monitored before because you've not needed to, right?
Yeah, I think, like, in our early days, so I do all our bookkeeping and stuff, so I know every penny we spend. And I think in the early days I was like constantly monitoring our cash because we were like, oh crap, like literally, excuse my language.
It's not what we had last week. I mean, we had bars and restaurants on. It was very bad last week.
Like, do not say that. I think in the early days, it was, there were months where it was like, oh, it's going to be really tight to pay everyone and pay rent and all that kind of stuff. And then we got to a stage where I haven't had to worry about our cash position, cash flow, for like ages. But yeah, like you said, Hannah, now it's like, well, depending on how long this goes on for, we're just eating into that constantly.
And have you taken advantage of any of the government schemes? So obviously the VAT deferment, things like that will have happened, but time to pay, furlough, is there anything, or bounce back loan, is there anything that you've taken advantage of?
So currently, no. So some of the things that are available to the hospitality and leisure sector, we can't get access to because we're not the business rate payer. Our landlord is. And so, of course, we've made the argument to him that he should be sharing some of that benefit that he's getting, and he has shared a little bit. Furlough doesn't really apply because, well, it's Jordan. I'm sure it might be mentioned saying that, but he's working. We need him to work.
I was going to say, you need him to work.
So, we need him to teach, and the kind of admin that's been, there's a load of admin and stuff that has to be on the background to manage this weird kind of interim phase that we're in. Bounce back loan, we haven't yet because I guess we see it as a loan, so we're going to have to pay it back at some point. But I suppose, depending on how long it goes on for and what our cash position.
Yeah, I mean, it is, as a self-cert thing with 2.5% max interest on it. I mean, it's the best. I guess it's the best loan anyone's ever going to be able to have available.
I think that came out of last week actually. Is Chin Chin, another Brighton restaurant, they said, to just have cash in the bank, even if you don't use it, give it back.
Pay it back.
You don't have to do repayment, just give it back, but just have it while it's there. Get hold of it. There's no repayment, and it's just in case. And there's something to be said for just in case funds, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think I guess that's what's unnerving, isn't it? When you start seeing that bank balance going, like, eating away, that's unnerving. Yeah, for sure.
So are you being kept up at night through it? Is it stressing you out that much? It's the last kind of question on this slide, but like, I guess it.
Right now, no. Like, the thing that keeps me up at night is not the money stuff. It's worrying about our team, actually, and making sure that the team, as in Lucy, Jordan, and I, are like all cool, and we're not losing the plot because we're all in got different stuff going on. and also that our trainers' well-being is okay, because, you know, like without our trainers coming along onto class, you know, teaching on Zoom is hard because you're teaching to a vacuum. Like,
Yes.
it's weird, you know, it's totally different to teaching in a studio. So yeah, like I guess the things that keep me up at night are the people, worrying about them, I think, because yeah, we're nothing without all of us, right? So
Yeah, I agree.
Now, you've got kind of two phases, I think, that we're going to go through, because I think specifically with gyms, because the lockdown is, there's lockdown, it's kind of the plan of now, and then we'll go into what the plan is to reopen. But take us through the actual lockdown plan itself.
So as in right now?
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, so we've shifted, so yeah, I guess like we've said, so we've shifted everything online. So I looked it up actually. So before, when we were in the studio, we were running 45 classes a week.
Okay.
Now that's 17.
Wow, okay.
So it's quite different. We've got the same crew of trainers, and we've kind of always had the same crew of trainers. And they've been, again, like they've been brilliant, because they've just, again, they've had to adapt overnight. And, you know, they're professionals in what they do, and they're very experienced, and they take pride in being able to teach people technique and check technique and make sure, you know, that people aren't going to injure themselves through doing something wrong. They take that really seriously. So to not be able to do that because you're teaching online is quite a hard thing for them, actually.
If lockdown extends, because I think this is you've gone online, you've got these 17 classes, but if it keeps extending, you know, till September or beyond, have you got anything you're going to add to the lockdown plan to generate revenue or drive new members or put more classes on or get more trainers?
So I think it depends. So like we can now do outdoor PT, for example, which helps. So I guess it all depends. It's really hard to answer. Yeah, it's like if we can start doing, you know, like we do a training camp every year outside, then yes. We're doing a bit of kit hire with the kit that we've got, you know, that's obviously just.
Are you? I did not know that, because I have to say that would be really handy.
So we kind of did it literally the weekend that we closed. We offered it out, and then it was like, well, now I think as of that Monday, you know, it was essential travel only, so we stopped.
Yeah, okay.
Like, yeah, that's not the right thing to do. Yeah, and I think that's been quite a big part of our decision making. It's like we've mostly followed government guidelines, but actually, what is the, you know, we're talking about the greater good here and people are dying. What's the right thing to do? Like morally, you know, like, well, no, we shouldn't be opening to sell weights, because, yeah, like that's, you know, it's what's responsible, I guess. I
So I guess your biggest challenge to come to that point that's in the middle of this one, the biggest challenge, is it just not knowing what's coming next? And I guess, how are you trying to balance that? Do you have lots of scenarios, but trying to guess the opening times, what's coming next, or do you just literally wait and respond when you do get the heads up?
So we've been talking to UK Active a lot, who are like sort of professional body for gyms and sort of health clubs and leisure centres. So they are funded by their members, so we're a member of them. They are actually, they've been pretty good. They're quite close with government and like the health minister, and have been lobbying government, I guess.
Yeah.
So we've made sure that we've, like had various chats with them to understand, you know, to get the kind of inside track as much as we can, which has then helped us plan what we think our operating model will be when we can open.
Okay.
And kind of give us an idea of the earliest time that we can open, knowing that that is subject to change.
Yes, in those scenarios, you know, going from 45 to 17 classes, I guess you're okay if we can add, if we do a 6 a.m. for instance, as well as a 7 a.m. what then happens? And but I guess it's understanding the profitability per class.
Yeah.
You know, and what you can. You know, those metrics I've got no concept of. You know, is that something that you look at, Helen?
Yeah, so it's a funny one because it's quite difficult. So I think Lucy, Jordan and I, you know, we're in our booking system all the time. So we've got the app on our phone, so we're constantly looking at class numbers and what class numbers are doing. But the class numbers don't always equate to the sales, right, because you've got people on unlimited monthly memberships and things. Of course. So it's not always a direct correlation. So it's quite a strange, it's quite a strange one. So our kind of the main thing we look at is our sales and member numbers, really, to see what those, because so our income comes through different types. So we have like drop-in fees or monthly memberships. Then also like we'll move GB and ClassPass, so we get a bit of revenue through those. So it's monitoring those levels really, and those numbers. Because like you said, I mean, adding extra classes on doesn't necessarily put in more people, it just increases our cost base.
Yeah, of course it does.
Have to pay another trainer. So that like getting the balance of the timetable right is quite tough.
I think we have had, before I go into what your opening plan is going to be, a lot of businesses we've spoken to have said they've come out of this, or coming out of this better, having learned lessons about getting closer to their numbers, doing things differently, getting tighter on costs or overheads or metrics or whatever. Are you the same, or do you think you were running a pretty tight ship beforehand?
I'd like to think we were running quite a tight ship beforehand. I think, well, I guess this is forced us to go online, which I think is something that we've been talking about since we opened 2 years ago. So it's made us do that. So that's good. And also I think for me, it's made me realize actually that our values as a business are sort of more important than ever, because actually that's helped us make a lot of decisions about things.
Okay.
In terms of, should we still be open now or not? Or what should our pricing be and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Because I think we've been forced to make lots of decisions really quickly. Kind of checking your own judgment, having our kind of a clear vision of values, like that's been really useful to me to kind of help guide us through it, I guess.
Yeah.
And that probably guides you very nicely into, I mean, that is Lucy, who is Wonder Woman there in that shot. I mean, how on earth you could ever do that is beyond me. But I guess with your values at the core then, and your new metrics and your new way of working, what does the future look like? So
in terms of timescales, the earliest we think we can open is July.
Okay.
So please be July. And so I mean, we're expecting to have a studio open, but with greatly reduced class sizes, because we'll be operating with social distancing and restrictions.
Yeah.
Of course, cleaning becomes a lot more important.
It also more expensive, does it? I mean, does that put the cost up?
Well, that's the thing. Is that financially feasible for you? You know, it's the same as with restaurants, and you know, they might not be able to open if, like, for instance, Chin Chin's bar countertop one last week, we were talking to them, and like, you know, David's view is that they won't be able to open until 2021.
Wow.
That one. Oh, exactly, because you know, you can't possibly, you know, you'd only be able to open
space just doesn't
for 5 people, and then that's not, you know, economically viable. So, you know, is that, I guess those are the sorts of things you're having to model, right?
Yeah. So we're basically, we'll be operating a hybrid timetable where we'll have studio classes and online classes still. It's the only way that we can do it, because, you know, you won't be able, I hate to tell you this, but you might not be able to come to as many classes in the studio as you want. we might have to limit you. Because it's just, you know, again, it's about giving everyone the chance to come to the studio and it being fair and inclusive.
Yeah, of course.
What we're about, right? So, yeah, so there's all that.
Mikey, start a rota type system of going, right, you can only come in on these because your classes are popular, and of course it's boxing, and there's only so many boxing bags that you can actually use.
And that's the other massive thing for us. We're a boxing studio. So there'll be no partner work. There's be no gloves and pads. So the only boxing we can do is, well, shadow boxing, like people are doing online, which works pretty well actually, and using the bags. But of course, the bags, you know, you need space between the bags. So between people,
every other one will have to come down, won't it? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it changes our class formats as well.
And what about on the new sales side of things, Helen? You know, just things like, you know, referrals, you know, different systems to try and go, actually, you know, we might not be able to promote like we normally do, but just, you know, refer a friend mechanisms or gift vouchers or those sorts of things to try and drive new footfall, whether virtual or not, to the business.
Yeah, so it's funny actually, because it's just before we closed, we'd actually got our acting gear and got a pretty good marketing plan together, and for the first time allocated a marketing budget, which we've never ever done before, because everything was just free stuff on social media or word of mouth, really. Yeah, I just, some of the refer a friend stuff and those things, you don't like, it's a good way to spread the name, but you don't necessarily pull in that many new people, I don't think. What's been useful for us, again, because we're obviously not spending on advertising right now, because we're not spending on that kind of stuff, but so we're on MoveGB and ClassPass platforms, and whilst we don't want too much of our business through third-party platforms, they do, you know, they're bigger than us and they do have a marketing budget, so we can kind of ride off of those. And of course, online, you can do online classes from anywhere in the country. You don't need to be from Brighton.
No, it's, and also I think for that, one of the biggest fears, it must be a bigger hurdle for any gym, is that fear of going into somewhere you don't know, you've not trained, maybe you're a bit out of shape, you're unfit, you feel chubby. Actually, online is a lovely, gentle entry into the exercise world, which I guess has never really been there. So it might drive you new members from that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, it's going to change the exercise world, the gym world, for the better, as I think a lot of things will be changed for the better.
Well, yeah, and I guess that's, I think I think, you know, there's a lot of negatives about what's going on at the moment, but yeah, like, let's look at the positives too, right? And I think it's suddenly everyone's going, oh, I should get my daily exercise, and everyone's doing their Joe Wicks video, or is down on the seafront running, or, you know, that people suddenly exercise. We've gone back to basics as humans, like, we need exercise, shelter, food, and speak to our friends and family. So it's like exercise has become important. And also, you know, a worry for us also is, will people want to come into a studio and be next to other people?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I guess part of our reopening, well, yeah, like our kind of model and what we'll be doing when we reopen is massively focused around reassuring our customers that, you know, we're taking this seriously. And we will be, there will be like stringent cleaning, and there will be social distancing, because it's serious. But also I think there's something, you know, we've all been stuck in isolation and without social contact. I think we as human beings are social creatures, and you can't replicate that feeling of being in a studio with other people and working out and getting that vibe and that atmosphere. Like, you can't recreate that at home. So I guess there's something in that as well.
And I can say you definitely can't. I've tried to get my kids involved, and it's just not the same thing.
It's also annoying. You get asked questions like, "Where's the TV remote?" It's like, I'm in the middle of a press up. Leave me alone.
Actually, it's good fun on the classes online, seeing all the kids like hanging on, and
You do get to see everyone's house, which is quite fun. You know, all the people you're training. I've basically got an entire view of the housing population, what everyone lives in from the top. I mean, what do you think? We've kind of talked around it a lot, but what's the real biggest challenge, you think, to the next few weeks and then few months?
It's all the uncertainty. It's, you know, like we've got our plan in place for when we reopen, and we think we know what that looks like. And, you know, like through speaking to UK Active, we've got basically a framework that they're trying to push to government to say, look, here's a framework, you know, so that social distancing works, and that, you know, there's levels of standards of cleaning and hygiene and If gyms implement this, surely then they can open. So we've got our plan for when we reopen, but hopefully that's July, but who knows, right?
I mean, have you forecast what additional cost it's going to add to your monthly amount, this cleaning, and the reopening is going to cost something and all of that? Is that all in the forecast?
Yeah, we've built that in. I mean, to be honest with you, cleaning for us we'll go back to what we were doing when we opened, which is I'll be there after work cleaning.
Cute Jordan and Lucy.
Yeah, basically it'll be us. Like we'll bring, you know, like a year ago when we were able to afford a cleaning contract, it was like, yes, we can afford a cleaner. So we'll probably use them a bit, but I think a lot of it will actually be us.
Do you think the future, bearing in mind you've now got this whole new avenue of online, whereas before your forecasts pre all of this were just based in the class, you were going to spend some more marketing, but you're very much studio based. You've now got this other revenue stream, which is online. Are your forecasts actually exceeding, because you've got these two revenue streams, what you were going to gun for once reopening and once things start to go back to normal, or have you stayed very conservative?
We're staying really conservative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess our forecasts are very near term at the moment as well, because it is, week to week, month to month, trying to figure out what's going
on. And you
on.
use Xero, don't you? And you're looking at it real time, all the time. You're looking at
Yeah.
what's going on in the business.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, that you could still do online membership only, you know, and that's.
Yeah, I think that when we get back to whatever normality we get back to, I think that we'll always have an online offering now, I think. Yeah.
I think I'll do a mixture of the two.
Yeah, like it works for people. Yeah, yeah.
It does. It's very good. Looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently, either before, during, or as we stand today?
Not much, I don't think. I think the only thing is when we did go live, we went live with YouTube videos instead of live Zoom, because I think to be honest, we were just scared that going live and doing classes live was just scary and was bound to go wrong, and the technology wouldn't work and it would just be a disaster. But Zoom has proved us wrong. So yeah, I guess I probably wish we'd gone to live classes sooner. But yeah, other than that, I think I don't know. I kind of feel like all of us, trainers included, well, and clients too, right, deserve a bit of a pat on the back for just adapting overnight and going with it and getting on with it. So.
And I think you actually had, as one of your final ones, one of these questions, you actually put in your membership, the core, the kind of loyalty within your members has been really core, and the kind of community you've created has been really core to you guys surviving this, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Which is, yeah, like our members have been amazing. Like their support has just been unbelievable. So so this week it's Mental Health Awareness Week. So we're putting out like email shots every day this week with quotes from our members. Because yeah, they're just awesome. And it's like, I think for a lot of people during this time as well, being able to rock up to an online class every day is not a lifeline, but it kind of does get you through the day a bit. Yeah, like I don't know where I'd be if I wasn't doing my 7 a.m. classes.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
What's been, just to run through these final questions now, anybody who has got any questions for Helen, or that you run a gym or you advise gyms, just stick them into the chat box and we will cover them at the end of this. But just to quickly scoot down through this, biggest learning over the past few weeks?
I think hold your nerve and don't try and, it's like easier said than done, like try and stay as chilled as you can, like hold your nerve and trust the judgments you're making. I think like trust what you're doing.
Yeah, that's fair. The 3 things, now I know your answers to these and I like your answers to these, but what are the 3 things you wish you'd done before shutdown?
I wish my 3 things were 3 different parties.
They were.
One was a party with all of our clients and members. 2 was a party with the trainers, and 3 was a party with me, Lucy and Jordan. Because actually I think the thing that we don't do enough or didn't do enough was celebrate our successes.
Yeah.
We're so eager to do the next thing. What's the next workshop, or what's the next event, and how can we make that class better? It's like, actually we're doing pretty good. Like let's just celebrate that.
I think that's so true of so many businesses. It's because that ambition that is naturally within a small business and somebody who's been entrepreneurial enough to set up, it's that stop and look around and look what we've actually achieved. Top 3 things you'd recommend to anyone in hospitality?
In hospitality or in gyms?
Or
Helen.
Gym.
Yeah, there we go.
That was my crappy slide update. Apologies. Anyone in the gym industry?
So I think the things I wrote down here were plan. I think because all we can do at the moment is plan.
Yeah.
Plan for different eventualities. Look after your customers and look after your staff, because I just think it's business and it's money, and we've got to keep money going because otherwise we don't exist. But actually for me it's always about people, always.
Yeah, brilliant. And the 3 things you're going to do before you reopen?
Party for one.
have some parties on my own. Make the most of the simpler life that we seem to be having at the moment, and the chance to slow down, because I don't know, I think generally we're all like running around being so busy all the time because we're so important and busy, but actually, like, do you know what? The world's telling us to slow down, so just make the most of it. That's one. Keep exercising, because I think literally, that's what keeps me sane. And that includes, I suppose for me, it's like keep exercising with some shadow boxing, because I massively miss boxing.
Yeah.
Killer. And then the third one is we as the box are going to keep trying to put on kind of extras for members. So like we've got, obviously I need to do a plug. So we've got like a nutrition talk coming up. We've got a free mobility workshop coming up. So obviously all online, but to keep like, yeah, we love doing events and fundraisers and stuff at the box because it's good fun and it gets everyone involved. So it's like keep doing those things. So we're planning a fundraiser in the online world at the end of June for Mind as well. So yeah,
brilliant.
Keep doing all those good things as well.
And I think Hannah and I will be a massive big vouch for the box. It is brilliant. Just as an additional plug, it is an absolute brilliant gym. Best one. Just a couple of questions actually. One from we've got actually one that's coming from Lewis. Are your trainers employed or self-employed, and how has that impacted your or their business if they are self-employed?
Yeah, so all but one of our trainers are self-employed. So yeah, for them it's been really tough because they obviously their income from us has dropped massively because, from running 43 classes a week to 17 means that suddenly we're paying them a lot less. And yeah, they're private personal training businesses, and some of them teach at a couple of other studios. Again, their income is dropped off massively. So their lifestyles have been totally flipped. Yeah, I
guess the government schemes, I assume, are only them taking advantage because there is the self-employed government grant, isn't there? So I assume
I believe so.
For those. Well, a question for me really. So I mean, the reason Hannah and I do these calls is one, we do everything together, which she said, but also we represent the two different channels that we talk to, of which is our Small Businesses Direct, which is absolutely Hannah's baby. She's an absolute advocate for making small businesses successful and giving them the ability to make decisions to be successful. Mine's the Accountant channel, and I'm a huge advocate of enabling accountants to enable their small businesses and open up communication in a way that they've not had before. What's your relationship with your accountant like? Is it one that's just focused around tax returns, or actually are you beginning to have more advisory based type conversations with those with your
advisory based? Because I do our bookkeeping and our VAT returns and that kind of stuff. They do our year-end accounts. So I've always kind of pulled on them for like, how I set up Xero correctly? Am I coding things to the right place? I have those kind of conversations with them. But actually, I've always used them as Mark in particular that works at our accountancy practice. I've always used him as a sounding board because I think if you're making any decision as a business, it's always a good idea to phone up the accountant and see if they've got a view, because it might be that there's a tax implication that you've got no idea exists. Yeah. Or they'll just have a slightly different take on things. So I'll quite often phone up our accountant for a 10-minute chat and often walk away with a nugget of information that I just wouldn't ever thought of.
Yeah, well, exactly. You'd like to think that your accountants, if they're working with a number of different gyms or a number of different verticals, have got those eyes across a number of different options. So then that breadth of experience can absolutely add value. Okay, I think we're in for questions. I think you've clearly answered them all as we've gone along. So I think unless anyone wants to fire a very quick one, we can leave it there. And I think we've bang on time, which I have to say is gold star us. We're really bad at hitting time. But listen, thank you so much for your time today, Helen. For all of those.
I hope it was helpful. Okay, I'm just rambled on.
So insightful.
It really is. I think, if you're running a small business, one of the things that we recognize is it's very lonely. And I think the opportunity to hear that other people who are in the same boat, facing the same battles, doing the same things, is just reassuring if nothing else. So we will share these online and we will send emails out to everybody who has attended today. But thank you very much indeed for your time today, Helen. That was brilliant.
No worries. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, Helen. Thanks, attendees as well. Thanks very much.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye.